assassination actually created the Secret Service. So maybe they were tired of presidents being assassinated, that they probably should have bodyguards.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me thrice, I'm going to create a law enforcement agency.
Yeah, they probably thought Booth. Now, I did want to cover another side topic, and this will be split up into a separate video. So this other topic I want to talk about was there were other presidents. Most people talking about JFK being assassinated, but there were actually 3 others. Lincoln, but there were other 2 that you always kind of forget, and I want to kind of cover those 3 in this video. So there's, like I said, there was and they each one kind of changed the landscape of America, to be honest, and it's pretty surprising. Rick, you said you didn't know most of these. Obviously we all know the first one, which is Abraham Lincoln assassinated. He was the first to be assassinated. His assassination dramatically changed the Reconstruction era of America. So it was like right after the Civil War. He was assassinated just 5 days after General Robert Lee surrendered to the U.S. So a lot of people were still kind of grumpy, upset about that. Booth and his conspirators had initially planned to kidnap him to save the Confederate States, but as the Confederacy faltered, Booth's thoughts turned to murder. Booth may have decided to act on his altered after Lincoln endorsed giving the right to vote to African Americans, men who had served in the Union Army. The assassination of President Lincoln was just one of the part of the large plot to decapitate the federal government of the U.S. after the Civil War. Lincoln never lived to enact this policy. He died the following morning on April 15th, 1865. His successor, Andrew Johnson, assumed office and proceeded over the Reconstruction. So that, I mean, people didn't want this to happen, right? Still, even though the Civil War was going on, but there was a whole other impact to his presidency, his assassination. Like, I think even a lot more people got a little bit more worried about the president kind of being out and about. But yeah, they were very upset that he was going to free these men who served in the army. So at least it got done, I would assume.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But this is one of the most popular ones.
Oh, yeah.
And again, this is one people know for sure because when Booth shot him, he jumped on the stage and was like, yeah, I did it.
Well, he said
he completely viewed himself as a hero.
Well, didn't he shout "Sic Semper Tyrannis"?
He did.
As he jumped off like the balcony.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason he didn't really get away is he messed up his leg by jumping.
Yeah.
So to continue on, Johnson, a congressman, a former slaveholder of Tennessee, and the only Southern senator to remain loyal to the Union during the Civil War, favored lenient measures on remitting Southern states to the Union during the Reconstruction era. He proponent of states' rights. Johnson gained amnesty to most former Confederates and allowed Southern states to elect new governments. As a result of new state governments formed across the South and enacted black codes. These reconstructive measures were designed to repress the recently freed slave population soon, and many African Americans had little choice but not to continue working for the Southern plantations. So, I mean, he let them he kind of forgave them, right? It was like in a way, he said that you're welcome to be still part of the U.S.
I think the thought process is that if Lincoln had handled it, that he would have been a little bit more strict on federal restrictions on what states could enact and not. Whereas Johnson was more of a, like it said there, a states' rights sort of person.
Yeah.
But for the time, I mean, like right now in my time, and we have to kind of look at all these things, like the history and how they thought about things and how they viewed society and how we view society. Like right now, I'm a big states' rights dude. If states want to do a certain thing their way, if as long as it doesn't violate the federal government, or anybody else's civil rights, go ahead. But for that period of time, granting that much freedom was unfortunate because they still cracked down on people completely based on race, which ultimately is a violation of civil rights, and ultimately most of that stuff would be thrown out. Whatever still remains as far as just part of the population and society is different, but that's kind of one of those things I'm torn on. I'm like, yeah, states' rights, and oh boy, the states were really kind of awful then.
Well, that's the give and take, right? That's the double-edged sword where our country gives. We give some certain freedoms. There's a good part of that, and there's a bad part of that. And then where do you draw the line of what's acceptable? So yeah, a lot of people think if Lincoln wasn't assassinated and he was able to serve longer, he could have served another term, because there still wasn't that rule where he couldn't have. He probably could have served 3. He probably would have changed probably America, what we even see it as today. Like maybe some of these states don't even exist. Maybe they're different, or they're some other stuff that could have happened. So who knows? But maybe Booth had a time traveler with him. He knew what was going to happen. Now this one I didn't know and I always kind of forget about. James A. Garfield's death changed the system of political patronage. So
Monday killed him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just a joke, sir.
Moment.
Yeah, I know. On July 2nd, 1881, President James A. Garfield was shot twice in the arm and the back. Let's see here. What did Alaska? Okay, let's hold on. As some doctors pointed out, Lincoln was probably going to die within a year anyway because of, maybe, who knows? So Garfield got shot in the arm and the back as he entered the old Baltimore Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C. The former Ohio congressman, who was en route to Massachusetts to give a Independence Day speech, had been president for just 4 months at the time. Garfield survived the initial injury, but died 2 months later from severe infection. The infection likely was the result of unsanitary surgical practices, as doctors attempt to remove the bullet from his back. Charles, again, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, Guthrie, the man who shot Garfield, was a successful lawyer and preacher who stalked the president around D.C. for weeks before the attack. Months earlier, he had written a speech on Garfield's behalf. The speech was largely ignored, but Guthrie had informed the delusion that it had been decided factor of the president's victory. Okay. Seeking patronage for the vital assistance he had provided the president, Guthrie insisted he should be awarded an ambassadorship in Paris. He turned to revenge when he was denied the post. Assassination of Garfield, the disgruntled public officer seeker became the impetus of the Pennington Civil Service Act. Garfield's successor, Chester Arthur, signed the act in 1883, which reformed the civil service system and established a principle that federal jobs should be awarded based on their merit rather than their political patronage or patronage. So there you go.
That's good, because no other federal job has ever been given because they like a person ever since.
Is this interesting that there was an act about that and no one's following it? Maybe.
Yeah. Government's gonna government.
So Garfield was shot and he sort of survived because and since there wasn't really great hospitals at the time, he passed away. He would have lived maybe today. And then because this one guy was just mad because he didn't get a job that he wanted.
I mean, I kind of read as you were reading that, I'm thinking like he was a President Garfield stan, like he was delusional and thought they were better friends than they actually were.
I'm just guessing that doctor shouldn't have licked the knife before he tried to remove the bullet.
Oh my God. Yeah,
better before than after.
This one, it's not so like there's not a lot of crazy theories right on this one. That's why I think that's why a lot of people forget about. I don't think it had much as an impact maybe, but it's interesting to think that this person was so upset he lost a job that he wanted to assassinate a president, and then now they have an
Like I said,
actor.
he was like, he just kind of reads as somebody who was kind of, now granted, this is history and, the winners write history, that kind of thing. But he kind of reads as somebody who was delusional and thought they kind of had like a relationship, like kind of like modern stalker relationship where they,
Mhm.
like that time I showed up outside your house and you had to tell me, don't ever show up here again. I mean,
Yeah.
I swear I've
I
never
thought
been
you
there.
were a garden gnome.
JT tells me that every week, and I still show up. So
Yeah. The third assassination was William McKinley. His assassination actually created the Secret Service. So maybe they were tired of presidents being assassinated, that they probably should have bodyguards.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me thrice, I'm going to create a law enforcement agency.
Yeah, they probably thought Booth was crazy. It'll never happen again. And then this crazy stalker comes out of nowhere. But yeah, anarchist Lee. Man, they have some interesting names, don't they? Leon Kurzugels.
We'll just call him Leo.
Leo.
Dr.
Shot President.
Kalopowitz.
Leon shot President William McKinley on September 6, 1901. McKinley was shaking hands at a public reception at the Pan American Expedition, a fair in Buffalo, New York. Leon concealed his weapon in a handkerchief and shot McKinley twice in the stomach at close range. McKinley died of his wounds 8 days later on September 14th. Now, Kennedy died within hours, and then Lincoln died on the spot.
I'm pretty sure they only declared Kennedy, like it took them like 15, 20 minutes to declare. But anything you've seen, you're pretty certain that he was done in the car.
McKinley's assassination led to creation of modern Secret Service. Before McKinley's death, president security was lax and often piecemeal. So there you go. After his death, Secret Service was originally a branch of the Treasury Department created to investigate counterfeit currencies. Now, there's a TV show out there, The Warrior, I believe, where they talk about Secret Service coming to San Francisco, and it's this group of people before they were the Secret Service, became the president's dedicated permanent security detail. McKinley's successor, Theodore Roosevelt, was widely regarded as the first modern president. Roosevelt increased the power of the executive branch by enforcing strong antitrust legislation at home, while simultaneously increasing the influence of the United States global politics abroad. So there you go. And Theodore Roosevelt's like one of our top presidents.
He created like the national park system, and
he had a teddy bear.
Yeah.
So who knows? McKinley would have made. I know McKinley opened the Hoover Dam. I believe he's the one that sanctioned that one. So he was big on the park stuff too. So he might have done the same, maybe, but maybe not as grand as Roosevelt did. But it's interesting.
I mean, at the very least, it established a dedicated, more stringent protection detail for the president. Because who knows how many more of these we would have had before somebody finally decided to.
Well, here you go. Nicole's got some facts. One of the presidents used Al Capone's car. Yeah, a lot of these presidents were linked to mafia. Yep, Franklin.
Theodore Roosevelt encountered Bigfoot too, by the way.
He did. There is a story about that. But it's interesting. It took three assassinations to finally put some type of security around the leader of our country, right? So,
yeah, at that point they finally figured out we should actually put some officers around and not just like the president's bros that say they can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then obviously the fourth one is one we just focused on in the conspiracy theories, but it was John F. Kennedy's murder helped usher the civil rights era in the 60s. As we know, his assassination took place on November 22nd, 1963. this article says 2 shots hit the president in the head, killing him. 1 bullet struck Connolly, who survived assassination attempt. Oswald was shot and killed 2 days later by Dallas, like we said, Jack Ruby in the other segment of this live stream. Before this death, though, Kennedy had proposed civil rights legislation that would outlaw discrimination based on race, religion, sex, and national origin. The legislation was controversial and had stalled in Congress before Kennedy's death. However, Kennedy's assassination changed the political dynamics of the civil rights movement. His successor, LBJ, who was 3 cars behind, took advantage of the national outpouring of sympathy after Kennedy's death to push through the historic Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, which helped end radical racial segregation and provide greater protections to all voters and of all kinds, even black voters. So now this is interesting, right? Who knows if JFK would have even gotten this done if he didn't
Well, this
die.
is kind of one of the things in this article. I looked at it ahead of time that I kind of disagree with, because when you delve into different aspects of alternate history, the civil rights movement everything was headed in the right direction anyway. It might have taken another year or 2, or maybe even another president, but it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Kennedy was, liked enough and charismatic enough that he probably could have gotten pushed through anyway. Like I said, it just may have taken a little bit longer, but the fact that his death hinged on that becoming law, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Okay, you don't agree about this impact? What?
I mean, I'm not saying that his death didn't impact anything. Obviously, he was a very beloved president and everything like that. I just don't think that it was the latchkey moment that changed everything for
Yeah,
that
and I
movement.
think, and we talked about this with the theories. I think LBJ, like we said, he was kind of cutthroat, and I think he used this. He kind of used this to do certain things, like, hey, Kennedy probably would have done this. It's too bad that he passed away, and maybe he wouldn't have done it. Maybe there was something that LBJ wanted to get done, but Kennedy did not.
Yeah, I agree with Beard. I don't think that the civil rights stuff was nearly as big of a deal. I think the other things related to Cuba, Russia, Vietnam were definitely much bigger. I mean, what's really interesting, and I feel like today, I mean, it's far more looked over, but majority of Democrats were not in favor of civil rights. Kennedy was one of the few, and he got his support actually with that through Republicans. It's kind of funny.
This stream's definitely coming down now, Rick.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it was kind of like almost like celebrities, I want to say, that endorsed JFK were very much pro civil rights and pushing that. But yeah, I mean, a good chunk of the Democrats, and I want to say LBJ was one of them, that
well, he knew if he didn't push that through,
he probably wouldn't have gotten reelected.
Correct. Or he wouldn't be able to do other things that he wanted to do. There's a whole nother rabbit hole you can go down on that president. But we just wanted to focus on those assassinations in our earlier segment on the theories. What did you think about those other 3 assassinations? I know most people know about Links, but did you know about the other 2?
I remember the one about Garfield. I couldn't remember about McKinley. But I do remember Garfield being one that
there was one president that almost got assassinated by his wife because she was poisoning him. That might be another video at another time. So, anyways. All right. Well, I do recommend I do recommend that you don't only, if you're new here, to subscribe to this channel, because you'll get more stuff like this, and also go subscribe over there at After the Weekend, because like I said, we're gonna have some fun topics about, or movie reviews about this and other movies you can check out.